is that Orthodoxy is pre-modern, right? So whenever you're talking about Western Christianity, whether it be Catholicism, which at least in definition is a sort of sacramental traditional church, it has gone through so many innovations. It's not even the scholasticism of Aquinas or anything like that. It's something very, very different now. And so the West went through the Renaissance humanism, the rise of occultism and Hermeticism, and the Rosicrucian Society and the Illuminati and Freemasonry. These are Western developments. And so the Reformation, 1517, this was also a Western development. And these intellectual changes shape what we would consider eventually modernity. This is the endpoint of the Reformation, the scientific revolution, and the Enlightenment brings us towards the modern period, which we are now in the late modern period. That's literally the era that, if you're going to, in academic terms, that's where we reside right now, the late modern period. Now, you have with Derrida and Foucault and some of those French intellectuals in the 1950s and 60s say inaugurate what they consider the postmodern era, right? So we've moved out of modernity and now we're into the postmodernity. That's what their argument is. And postmodernity is a rejection of universal truth and these what they would consider patriarchal structures or these historical structures of society, because they cannot be validated, right? The epistemology and the metaphysics that shaped the Western world collapses essentially with the postmodern turn. Now, not everybody is a postmodern in academia. It's actually kind of a smaller minority, especially if you include the STEM fields. I mean, I don't know anybody in STEM who's a postmodern. But my point in bringing all this up is that Western Christianity, be it Protestantism in all its variations, Pentecostalism, evangelical Christianity, whatever it may be, Protestantism and Catholicism is a product of modernity. They are modernist orientations. And Orthodoxy did not go through the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, or the Reformation in the same way that the West did. And so it has preserved that. So when you read Lossky, and I have Lossky down here, when you read Lossky's mystical theology of the Eastern Church, what he's laying out with this mysticism is the preservation of a pre-modern worldview. Because modernity is built on secularism, rationalism, scientism, democracy, and technological progress. Those are what I would consider the 5 pillars of modernity. And so in the pre-modern world, technological progress was not tied with a sort of movement towards utopia. That is a modern remnant. Rationalism was not held as the epistemic standard for all things, because God, if God is real and miracles occur, things are happening that are supra-rational, that even at the highest epitome of rationality, it is still beyond it. You cannot understand it. And so the mysticism that is infused within the Eastern Orthodox Church, this is part of a pre-modern worldview where we do believe miracles happen. We do believe that there's angelic entities and demons all around us. And we do think spiritual warfare is a daily battle that begins with the bombardment of mental images that you and I get, these temptations, these thoughts, these things that stimulate us to move in the wrong direction. This is a daily reality, and this is beyond rationality. And so when you see modern Christianity, Western Christianity, I would argue that it's entirely a modern phenomenon, even though you could say the Catholic Church is in origin pre-modern and maybe still maintains aspects of pre-modernity. But after Vatican I and Vatican II, and now, I mean, things that Pope Leo and Pope Frank were saying, it's a modernist project. Only Orthodoxy stands in opposition to modernity. And I think that's a huge appeal for a lot of people, whether it's conscious or not. And so apologetics during the Renaissance and the Enlightenment period, the 15th to 18th centuries in the Orthodox world, responded to rationalism, deism, and scientific materialism. Orthodox thinkers, especially in Russia, engaged with Western thought to reaffirm the unity of reason and revelation within the mystical experience of the church. So it's again, we don't deny rationality. It's that rationality, just like how we understand apologetics, is subservient to faith. It's subservient to the mystical tradition.